produced years ago in the 80s, and it was a phenomenal, amazing song. The Lord will make a way. My goodness, I think I played that song so much. I want to welcome you coming in, and God bless you, Bishop Jackson. I think that is him. I'm on a cell phone, just so you know. I'm on my iPhone, and I can't always see the names or the pictures. We're on Instagram Live tonight, but we're on StreamYard Live on Facebook. That is Bishop Jackson. God bless you. We are on StreamYard on Facebook tonight. And if you want to get the full experience, you may want to just shift on over to Facebook Live, where we are on StreamYard. I want to say from the very beginning, thank you so very much to Brother Lloyd Edward Vaughn Jr. And his sowing into our ministry. He's been on most of these 98 days doing behind the scenes work. I'm deeply appreciative to him, and also to Reverend Brian Major, for believing in this. When we started this 99 days ago, we had no idea that we would indeed be moving in this direction. And so here we are, day 99. And we started out just, one day, encouraging, blessing the people. And then the second day, then the third day, it was a very rough time for so many people, for all of us. And here we are we're still not over it. And many of the numbers are starting to go back up. And so we have reason to pray. We have reason to be concerned, and reason to share. Tonight, we are sharing the third night of our gathering conversations, Liberating Leadership Conversations. And we are grateful tonight to have with us Mrs. Destiny Hilliard Thomas. And she is our guest tonight. Last night, we were grateful to have the Reverend Dr. Danielle L. Brown. And on Monday, we had Bishop Hollister Curtis Douglas. And each of them were phenomenal, and they were absolutely excellent. And we're grateful for the conversation that we are about to engage in. Just a few things I want to be cleared now, and I'm not sure which platform that is, but I am hearing some noise, Destiny, I think, from your side of the house, hearing a lot of noise in the background. I do want to say thank you again, as I said, to Brother Lloyd Vaughn, and I want to thank my guests each night. So I'm going to ask if you would help me throughout the evening. There's going to be on the bottom a how to give, how to sow into this. I want to be a blessing to my guests who have come on free, but I want them to be blessed and just receive, pardon me, a love offering. And so I want you to be kind as we share there on the bottom of the screen. Now, I'm going to say, too, could you get me a horse on that kitchen table? This has been an interesting day. From stomach challenges to allergy issues. And so now, all of a sudden, I'm losing my voice. So I want you to be patient with me. And so tonight, let's just jump right into this. Lord, thank you for your goodness and your grace. Bless us in this platform tonight and anoint us so that when we leave this conversation tonight, we can say that we've been in the very presence of Jesus. We are unashamed of the gospel of Christ. We pray for our conversation, our time, that we would be a blessing to those who share, meet the needs of every listener, every participant, and bless us with a lively, life-giving, empowering, and engaging conversation tonight in Jesus' name. I want to repeat something that was said the other night. We cannot be encouraged without engaging. We got to engage in order to be encouraged. And so that is what we're doing tonight. We've got to engage in order to be encouraged. Tonight, our guest is, again, Mrs. Destiny Hilliard Thomas. She is our third born daughter, married, and the mother of a very precocious and very active 6-year-old that she's rapidly trying to get up to his grandparents to give her some freedom. Destiny, welcome tonight. Welcome
Thank
to the
you.
program. We're glad to have you at Liberating Leadership Conversations, from protesting to solutions, strategies for our nation, strategies for our nation, um, and engaging concepts and creative solutions. I want you to take your liberty, and I want to open up with the 3 questions that I have uh, opened up with each guest each night. And the first question is, what saith thee to these things? You growing up in church, you know that's King James Version. What do you say about these things that are going on in this hour? What is your opinion? What are some things that you believe that will help us to go to the next level? We're hearing many different. There's no one set answer. There's no one set agenda. We need everything. We need all hands on deck. We need the preachers. We need the rappers. We need the musicians. We need we need everybody to have all hands on deck to share with us in this time that we're going through. The other question I have here is, feel free also to flow right into some engaging concepts that you believe are appropriate for these critical times. And then we'll end up by talking about some hopeful solutions, because in the midst of all of this, I want to remind my guests who've been sharing with me that there is hope. Is Joseph working on a computer or something for you, honey?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure that noise is from Lloyd but we're hearing a lot of noise coming from somewhere. So if somebody could mute that out, that would be great. We also want to remind people that there is hope. And I do want to say this before I go any further. I was very saddened to see 2 things last night, and I want to call it out, because we try to stand with things that we can stand with, and we try to we try to not stand with those things that kind of hinder us, or things that we really shouldn't stand for. Number one, I was very saddened to see that the St. John Church, St. John Episcopal Church, across the street from the White House, that some group of people begin to deface that. I want to be very clear from where I stand, my little opinion. We don't deface, we don't mark up churches, synagogues, temples. We do not. We know better. We've been trained better. We've been raised better. Our parents raised us better. We don't spray paint holy places. We don't do that. I understand the taking down of the Confederate statues, but there is no reason ever to deface a church. The other thing I want to say is Sean, what is Sean's last name, Destiny? Sean King is a very powerful speaker, a great activist. I just want to say, just from where I am, I completely disagree with him about removing images of white Jesus from people's churches. Those images are in their own churches, and people have a right to have in their church what they want in their church. When we start trying to side with going in and taking down images that we know that are not correct, and we know that are erroneous, but that's their church. We don't want to side with that. That's those folks' church. In our church, we have a Black Christ stained glass window, but we don't. I wanted to make that very clear because I didn't get a chance to post about it, and I wanted to say that we don't deface churches, we don't deface holy places, and we don't have a right to say what folk have in their church. That's their business. So thank you, Destiny, for being with us, and just jump right on in. The match has been lit. Burn.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Again, thank you for having me this evening. You definitely asked a few questions at once, so I'm going to try my best to answer all of them in the right order if I
Well, you
remember
don't
all
have
of
to.
them.
You can flow any
um,
way you want to. That those are
okay.
just the questions that I've been asking each one of our guests each night, and you can flow in and out. You can not touch anything, or you can just go.
Okay. Um, so, response to your initial question, how do I see what's going on, or what's my take on what's currently going on? What's currently going on is, I mean, there's no other way. It's even hard to put into words. It's just it's tragic. It's also traumatic, and it's all these reoccurring tragedies are causing more, trauma, especially to those that are, members of this group. And even if you're not Black, I believe that it would be traumatic for someone who, um, loves, has a loved one who is Black and whose, life is potentially endangered just for being, or even if they do. And this is one thing that really needs to be brought to the table. Even if the person has done wrong, their life still matters, and that's where you see a lot of commentary on someone who, I guess, Rashawn, well, he shouldn't have been drunk, or he should have not ran, or he shouldn't have grabbed the taser. Correct. So then he should have gotten arrested and went to jail, or whatever the protocol is. So nobody is saying it's okay to break the law. That's not what our argument is. I want to make that clear first and foremost. The issue is that he was shot while running away. Yes, he had already, done the taser. The cops had known the taser went off twice, which they stated it couldn't go off again. So there was no threat. He was running away. They could have, tased him with another cop's taser after shooting him. They said, "Oh yeah, I got him," and stood on his shoulder. So it was clear that there was just the anger built up from them not being able to restrain him, or he didn't follow the rules that they set in place. So it was more like, let's prove this point. So again, there's a major issue with the disparities between one person's life being valued over another person's life because of what they either currently have done or what they've done in the past. It tends to bother me. I know I'm going off a little bit, but I'm going to get back on track. When we see, they'll say, Breonna Taylor was a medical assistant or a nursing student. She was in the medical field. Tatiana was in medical school. They'll name the accolades, which is great to know that they were doing amazing things. But it saddens me to know that the accolades are stated as a way to prove and validate that their life mattered and that they did not deserve to die. But then on the other hand, there are several, loved ones that I'm very close with who may have been or are currently involved with things that are not, great. I have students that are associated with things that are not great. Their life matters. If they're not posing a threat, there's no reason that they need to risk losing their lives. So again, I want us to not only focus on those that seem, I guess, angelic, and make it seem as though others were deserving because they were, just living life and, making mistakes or whatever the case may be. All of these are equally unjust, regardless of the lives that they led. Again, if they're aiming a gun at a cop, or if they're, bringing harm, trying to, even with trying to run a cop over with them. There was an issue in a situation in Ohio a few years ago where the 13 officers shot 137 rounds into the car. Neither person, passenger or driver, had a weapon. They said they thought they heard gunfire. The gunfire was from all the officers shooting. Nobody was charged. Only 4 were fired. And these 2 individuals were homeless. And the fact that they even stated that they were homeless in the article shows that the validity of their lives was lessened because it was assumed that it didn't matter anyway. So it's just something I really wanted to just state before I got onto that. So the way I view this, what's going on, yes, I guess you could say it's a wake-up call. But the thing is, it's never ceased. More of it has, been caught on camera. It's been filmed. I think it was Will Smith that said these occurrences aren't increasing. It's just getting recorded. It's just getting filmed. Mm-hmm. And not only that, camera phones have been out maybe for the last, I don't know, 9 or 10 years. I think it was out when I was either in college or high school, I believe. But so 10, 11 years or so. But social media, the presence of social media for everybody. Initially when I was in high school, Facebook was only for, college students, and then they opened it up to high school students, and now it's for everybody. So the platforms that are being utilized by everyone have magnified within, I guess you could say the last 8 years or so. So, and now, hashtags are a large thing, and things going viral and trending. That wasn't the case 15, 16 years ago. So now there's a greater platform and an easier platform, a free platform where, these injustices can be brought to light, which is amazing, which is great. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'll say about how I feel about what's going on. Your second question as to, I believe it was, what do I feel needs to be done? Can you restate the second question?
Yeah, and you don't have to stay with these questions. These are just kind of guiding questions. I just wanted to know, like, what saith thee, or what do you say to these things as you're flowing?
Right.
And the other thing is, as you continue in this, because I'm getting a lot out of it, particularly when you talked about the importance of you mentioned tragedy, trauma, and these tragic events. You talked about the sanctity of life. And I wanted to just kind of engage in concepts that we as a people, and now when we say people, we don't just mean Black people, we mean people. The other thing I need to correct too is when people say the Black church, we're not just talking about the Black Baptist church or the Black Pentecostal church, because the Black church is not monolithic. It is not one. Absalom Jones was the first Episcopal Black priest in the Episcopal church. People think Episcopal is a white denomination, but Absalom Jones started the Black Episcopal Church in America. So all of us come with a different framework. And so as we come, to this table, what are some of the things that you feel that we as a multifaceted group of Black people, if there was one thing perhaps that you could say that would be a concept that we need to kind of adopt? For instance, my thing right now, I've been kind of throwing it out. I'd like to see our church start a school for African American culture, or African American heritage, or African American history for children. I've been, preaching about it for a long time, but I'd like to see us kind of start that. Jews have Hebrew school, Greeks have Greek school. We need something that would undergird and strengthen and teach our children. Are there any things that you might want to say that you feel are, I know that you're engaged in an awful lot of things that are helping to uplift persons who are downtrodden?
Okay. Yes. So one thing that I really think is necessary, there needs to be more of a sense of urgency with the intergenerational, relationships from those before us, who are still here. Here's what I'll say, and I'm trying to say this with not sounding like shading them or being rude or anything. When these tragedies occur, the representation from the NAACP, of course, is present. The Black Lives Matter movement, Say Her Name, several AAFP, several different organizations. We come together. What I don't really see is a lot of the different organizations uniting or collectively going after. Now they're all going after the same thing. Everybody wants justice. We're going after, but I don't necessarily see a framework where, let's say, if they are still separate entities, which one is this group going to specifically tackle so we can cover all bases and, target, the I don't know, larger audience. Another thing is, once these issues occur, you'll see it, even whether it's the funerals or once the announcement is made of, the arresting officers, you'll see our civil rights leaders, who marched with Dr. King, and these are iconic, heroes and members in our community who are, still living. I don't necessarily, nor have I read about or seen much of them doing things that would pass the torch, so to speak. So a lot of us are trying to, in a way, emulate while also, put our own millennial and modern day, spin on things and making it relevant for right now. But I don't necessarily see everybody at the same table, with I don't even want to call names, but with certain civil rights leaders who are still living and who are still active. I don't necessarily see everybody on one accord. And although they are great leaders within our community and they've done so much, to help us move forward, and, we are doing what we can, whether you're an activist or whether you're just a person who, is down to help anybody who's suffering, any of the underdogs, if you want to say that. But I just don't see that sense of unity, the framework laid out for how did you all, how were you all successful with these sit-ins and these bus boycotts? I see the ideas of, we say, let's, our Black dollars, money talks. So if we boycott, we do this, but it doesn't seem, I don't want to say strategic enough, but it doesn't seem like there's necessarily a unified, and I use that loosely because, again, we're not like a, monolith. It's not just one entity of Blackness, but I don't see any, I guess, a unified agenda. There could be, subgroups or sub-agendas from that one specific goal, but I don't even see everybody coming back to the table collectively. And I think that's what's necessary to occur. I definitely feel like there needs to be more grooming from those who are, I mean, let's be real, who are on their way out within the next, I don't know, 20 years or so. So it's almost like we can take what we learn and we see and we have videos on footage from, and but we have an opportunity now. We can actually sit at the table with them, and I don't see that. I don't really see that happening. It could be, and I just may not be versed on it. However, I don't see that occurring, and I think that would be something that's definitely necessary, not only once a shooting occurs or a killing occurs. I believe that it needs to happen continuously, because even if these killings stop, systemic racism is still here. That's it is with, mortgage companies, with banking systems, with taking out loans, with rental properties, with, even things down to Airbnb. There were certain people who got in trouble because they were, not renting out to people based on their profile picture because, they were Black. So it was like, you're discriminating even when I'm trying to go on vacation and I pay you up front, but, they were worried about if their house was getting messed up or whatever the case, or people's reasoning for renting. So there's discrimination and systemic racism in every facet of our lives, including the school districts, school systems, schools in the, get the funding from the taxes, and the areas that make the least amount of money pay the least amount of taxes, and then the school suffers. But you want to assess the students based on the test scores and say, well, they all had the equal opportunity because it's separate but equal, right? But you're assessing my child who didn't have, chairs to sit in. Baltimore City schools were in classrooms with winter coats on because they didn't have heat. They're photocopying textbooks, and you're comparing their test scores. Oh, and they have a teacher who may already view them as less capable, or may sign them off to special education because they can't sit still because they're not being engaged with, and they probably don't feel that rapport or that sense of love and connection from their instructor or their just school environment. You're comparing that with a school that has swimming pools, that has after-school curricular activities, that have whether it's one or two parents at home, that they have technology, they got Wi-Fi, they got pencils, paper, notebooks. All of these things boil back down to systemic racism and how things are set up, and how even the school districts are etched out, and which area code or which part of this town goes to this high school and this one goes to this one, and our scores need to be better because of this. So let's make sure this student gets, you know, their IEP, because we don't want them to mess up our assessments at the end of the year. And you may not understand some of what I'm saying, but those who are educators who are listening to this know exactly what I'm talking about, and know that it occurs, and it's unfortunate. But even things like that have nothing I just named had anything to do with police brutality. So that's just one demon that we're fighting, right? So it's you know, we're raising our kids with this. So you got 18 years in a school district, then from the first 11 years old and on, you got to worry about them making it home alive. So it's like you got all these different avenues of reoccurring traumas that us as parents and educators, because when you're an educator and you're in it, those are your babies too. So it's like you got all of these areas that you're trying to battle. You're trying to make sure, you know, you're you know, at the PTA meetings and sharing your voice and, you know, doing the best you can. Then you're also trying to make sure you signed up for like things like, you know, NAACP meetings, United Negro, United Council for Negro Women. So it's just, there's so many things. It's like, whew, like you literally, it's hard to just be, because your being is such a disruption and a disturbance to so many that you gotta you just really gotta, it's a fight all the time. And so it doesn't look back to my original point. I know I kind of drifted, but my original point of these things aren't just, it's not new. It's hard to put how you feel on it because it's not new. It's just, again, like, it's getting recorded. There's social media out now that's publicizing it, thankfully. And what's unfortunate is that even with it publicized and even with footage, you still have a large amount of people that will say, did you not, if he just, see, y'all are raising your kids wrong. If he just listened to the officer, if he just did this, well, if he just did that, I saw him pull back. It's like, some people's minds are trained to just not believe what they see, but to see what they believe. And there's a major difference. You are gonna always see what you believe, and it's not the reality. It's separate from reality. So whatever your beliefs are, your beliefs determine your actions, right? And so it's subconscious. You are what you believe, and you exude that to the max. You know, the argument is literally, we're screaming, stop killing us. Nobody said all cops are bad. Nobody said defunding the police does not mean not paying the police or not having police officers. So the people who choose to remain in ignorance and not look things, I mean, Google is like, if anybody who knows me knows, if I go back and forth, I'll debate. And if I think I'm right, I am looking up Google real quick. So I don't understand how so many people who are just lacking so much knowledge can't just Google. Like, I get it. Certain people prefer, you know, Fox over CNN or MSNBC or whatever your preference is, but always fact check, do your own fact check. Like, Google that, Google that mess. Like, that's not what defunding the police means. It's reallocating what funding is there. So the fact that, you know, there's an issue that, you know, teachers have to spend 4 years getting a degree and have to take additional courses, you know, to keep your certification, as well as professional development and all of that. And, you know, you have social workers and counselors who have to go to college and do all these other things and have to take all these trainings. And then police officers have less amount of hours of training than a cosmetologist has. And they're getting paid, you know, double what most teachers, and sometimes triple, depending on what state or city they're in the United States. So that's an issue. So the money needs to be reallocated and needs to be divided up into, proper ways of how they're going to, police the communities. There needs to be a requirement where police have to actually, be among the community. I love when I see footage or videos where there's like police officers doing like an after school program, a camp or something, or they're there just sitting eating popsicles with the community, kids in the community. So they're showing like, look, you're doing no harm, you're doing no wrong. I'm set out to be the good person. I protect you good people from the bad people. That's what I do. And to just let that be the mindset is, I guess, spoken to children, to youth, to even teenagers, going to the schools and speaking to them, not just showing them videos and footage of autopsies and the things that they do to keep them. I see cops come to schools to do anti-gun violence or anti-gangs, but they're not coming talking relationships, and that's the major issue. So that's a major issue. So
I want to say something here. Three things you talked about, and I'm not sure if the Congressional Black Caucus is doing it, but somewhere because I was invited to the table. I just don't know which table. I don't know which table I was invited to, but one of those tables.
At least you had a seat.
I did have a seat. Yes, I had a seat, and God's been gracious to me because I've been having a seat at least one or two major platforms since I've been pastoring for 37 years. And one of those tables had, they had NAACP, the Social Action Network, Black Lives Matter. There were several different, and I don't know if it was the Congressional Black Caucus, but it was one of them that I thought was very important. I want to just underscore how important that is, what you just said, that there needs to be a platform where we're all, I had the privilege of meeting and sharing a meeting with Congressman John Lewis. What's the other one who died? Elijah Cummings. And then was it Lowry? Had the privilege of sharing it. You yourself have been with me when we've been to Dorothy Heights functions, Coretta Scott King's, things of that nature. And every time I got invited to something, White House, Atlanta, I would bring one of you all with me so you could get used to this kind of thing. I want to say something too about shared power and giving up power. I'm not looking for John Lewis and those folk to give up power to me. Right. Nor should your generation be looking for them to give up power to you. I think what we have to learn to work with is shared power. So those persons that are in power in these organizations have got to always, in our church, I call it four down. So for instance, the other night, I was supposed to teach Bible study. This is, this one example. And so I talked to Pastor Brown, said, I'm not really feeling my best today. Can you do tonight? She said, yes. Then something came up with her. So then we called the third wheel, and then he was unable. And so then I realized that now I got to go down 4 levels deep. So all of us ought to have our platforms where there are 3 or 4 levels deep, because we cannot do it all. And nor should we be required to do it all. And I want to say something else about the importance of shared power, and also the importance of when it comes to my Christian values, regardless to what my values are on social justice as a Christian, I need to ask God to help me conform to the image of Jesus. So I just can't say I'm not conforming to nothing. If I'm going to be in the church, and if I'm coming from a Christian perspective, I want the Lord to be pleased, because I want to conform to Christ. I want to say something else you mentioned, because you said it's hard to get a break and hard to get rest, because by the time you're concerned about the school, then the after school program, then the Council of Negro Women, then NAACP, then the Social Action Network. I want to say to everybody on this platform that everyone cannot do everything, but everyone can do something. And the thing that you can do that and keep your sanity, because insanity does not help any of us. And so many of us are hypertensive, not just because we were born with it, but we are hypertensive because of the atmospheres that we are living in. You talked about concerned about your kids coming home after school, concerned about them not being treated right, even in the Cub Scouts, or concerned about issues with, the poor funding in these public schools. The other thing I need to say too is that, as you do something, but everyone, I don't know how to put this, I'll leave it alone. I was going to say, when I came into ministry as a pastor, being a pastor was my sacrifice. It was not yours. So I think that that's something we need to keep in mind, is that I'm not a priest. I'm a husband with children, and pastoring and being in and among the people. That's my sacrifice, but that's not the sacrifice of our children. And we've got to kind of keep that in mind about who we're laying out as a sacrificial lamb. And I think that's important. You talked about systematic inequities. And I don't think you can ever say enough about systematic inequities, because we don't really even see, these systematic inequities, and you really can't run from them, but you must be steadfast and unmovable. Talk a little bit about that, Destiny. And has it helped you coming up in a socially conscious, aware church?
I definitely believe it helped me coming up in a socially aware church, a very welcoming church. And, I felt, I've always felt like I had a voice and was given a voice. And even if I saw things within my church that I didn't think was okay with the, I don't even want to say treatment of people, but just judgment or judgmental things, I've always felt empowered enough to speak on that, which, yes, as you know, I have. So, yes, whether it's received or not, I can't remain silent on something that I see as not being equal or not being okay. And that's just, how I've always been. That's how I've been shaped. And in addition to that, of course, and I to just add to that, my educational background was completely opposite from what my church was pouring into me. So, going to schools, like I went to private school up until the 9th grade. I went to public school in a predominantly white area, which had, several people who weren't probably used to, I guess, being around Black people. I had, just different racist experiences. One in particular was a student, Ryan Carney, a member of the Future Farmers of America, FFA. And he would say in social studies class, in the middle of class out of nowhere, "Stars and bars forever, the South will rise again." And my teacher's response after the second time, "All right, Ryan, stop, let's get back." And it was just like nothing. So, there, I felt like I had to, I don't feel like I shrunk myself at school, but I definitely, was not the Destiny everybody outside of school knew. So I had my small group of friends, and, that was pretty much it. Everybody there probably would say I was quiet, or if you ask majority of people I went to school with, they probably wouldn't know me, or they may know me just because I was one out of like a few Black people. But outside of school, I always felt empowered in not only in my blackness, but in my femininity. And I was not even the most, what people say is girly or feminine. I wasn't even the most feminine acting growing up. Most people would say, I guess, they would say I was a tomboy, but I was empowered and comfortable in my femininity that it didn't matter, it was always, growing up was an argument about wearing jeans to church or wearing t-shirt, or I used to wear little bow wow, like bandana. So, but that was me. And, after leaving New Jersey and, going to an HBCU, for those who don't know, is historically Black colleges and universities. I went to what they would say is the best one, the Hampton University Standard of Excellence in Hampton, Virginia, where the Emancipation Oak is sitting, and the proclamation was read so many years ago. So I just wanted to lay that out. Anybody interested in attending, please contact me. I will definitely give you my experience and connect you with some people. But that's a side note. We're the real HU. So I definitely think that those experiences cultivated or helped to cultivate the type of woman I became, the type of leader I became. I just, I have had different pieces, I guess you could say seasonings from several different areas. So, I had my church poured a lot of seasoning in me. My HBCU definitely did. My school experience in high school, yes, Dana Frederick Hampton. I'm class of 2011, Onyx 8. It definitely was seasonless, I guess you can say. But yeah, I definitely think growing up in a church in that environment, the Naila ministry and Kalfani ministry, and being a part of the dance ministry and being a part of the youth ministry, the choir, definitely gave me a sense of belonging and gave it, me the okay to be Destiny, the Black girl, like it wasn't, I didn't have to shy away from myself or have to, become a hermit. In other areas, I felt like I had to. And that's unfortunately, that's the norm in this country, but those were my safe spaces. And that's why it was so important for me to go to an HBCU. All I applied to was HBCUs intentionally. But it's definitely, those are years where you literally just have to be. You don't have to worry about, you're going to have issues with people just because they're people, but you don't have to worry about somebody's doing something because of, the way you look, or, if you don't have, it just is an amazing experience. It's I can't even describe it, but yeah, to answer your question, I definitely think that played a role in me becoming who I am, and I'm still becoming, and that should never change. And one thing I want to comment on with leaders and leadership, the best leaders are people who are able to take direction, who are able to also follow, follow the directions of others. So something I took down in my notes, leadership is not congruent with a boss. A boss tells people what to do, and a leader teaches. And the difference is, a boss telling means that their word is right. Everything that they say it's gold. Like whether it's wrong or right, there's nobody who's able to check them. But a leader teaches, and the thing with teaching evolves over time. The same, type of science that was taught when you were coming up was changed and evolved by the time I was in school, and it's changing now in Joseph's science classes, because those things, it changes. Even vocabulary, it evolves, it changes. Words that are in the dictionary now were not in the dictionary when you were younger. We're definitely not in the dictionary when my grandmother was coming up. So if you're a teacher, the importance of being flexible and growing and evolving and continuing to develop professionally and socially. I know a lot of times we always focus on the professional development, but we need to develop socially as well, because that's part of the problem with what's going on now. People are not developed socially, and it shows. So I definitely think that is that's important. One thing I want to point out that I thought was pretty neat. With this being called Liberating Leadership Conversations, the definition of liberating is providing a release from a situation which limits freedom of thought or behavior. And leadership is giving guidance, direction, and teaching. The root word for liberating is liber, L-I-B-E-R, which is Latin, and it means free, which is also the root word for liberal, and even deliver, even though it has L-I-V-E-R, that the root word is from liber as well. So, when you say you're delivered from something, you're free from it. It's, it's no longer having a hold on you. Being liberal, your freeness. And again, I'm, very liberal. And when I'm looking at this definition of, being free as being liberal, I'm like, how could you not want to be free, free within and not be, not just be, but yeah, so I definitely think with when we talked about the leadership and those who, we're not telling them to relinquish their power or their leadership, but a lot of times we need to assess others' prescription. I went to the eye doctor yesterday, and I knew that something, I knew that with my left eye, the prescription, I knew something wasn't right. But there was no way I could just tell myself what type of glasses, what type of prescription I needed. I needed someone else, a professional, to let me know, even though it's my body, it's my sight, I needed somebody else to check and readjust my vision so that I can truly see what's taking place, right? So I think the same holds true with leaders, whether they're leaders who, the civil rights leaders I was referencing, who are now, I believe, in this, 70s and 80s, or whether it's a leader who is 24 years old or 15 years old or 45 years old. If you don't have anyone who's able to, proofread your vision or to check your prescription, then there's never going to be growth, and you're going to ultimately lead to the demise of whatever you're leading. And if it doesn't die down while you're here, your demise will be your legacy. So you'll be remembered as, someone who just failed at leadership, not because they didn't thrive. You can fail as a leader even when they're thriving, because the goal is not to thrive. The goal not to thrive in numbers, but the goal is to thrive with your message, with the impact you make, with those you empower. If you're not building and making other leaders from your leadership, then you're just then by the time you phase out, then what? That's why I said it's like your legacy will die out, because you have not been cultivating leaders from within, and you have not been listening to those who you're shaping into leaders, right? So just like as an educator, there are students who I've taught who I'm sure are doing much greater things than what I'm doing. And there's, think about, President Obama had a teacher, or, a regular old teacher, right? Who taught the first Black president. So you have, don't think that those who you lead can't outgrow your type of leadership, if that makes sense. And I think that's what some people are fearful of when we say pass the torch. When I say pass the torch, I don't mean hand it over. What I mean is, if I'm leading you, we all have torches, because I'm going to be in the trenches with you. I'm leading and I'm holding that responsibility and accountability for who I'm leading, but we all are on the same playing field. We're all on the same level. So when I was the director of the academic department at Job Corps, we were down instructors. I wasn't, directing other people to go cover this class and combine this group. I was in there playing the role of a teacher, even though I was out of the classroom at that time, because I can't lead people into something that I won't even do because I feel like I'm above them. No, I've already been in that arena. I'm going to cover the classes. And when I come in, I'm not coming in as, hey, everybody, I'm Miss Hilliard Thomas and I'm the academic manager, but today I'm acting as your teacher. No, they knew me as Miss Thomas, who was teaching the high school online class. And when somebody would act out, they'd be like, you better stop. You know that's the academic manager. Oh, is she? I don't have to see when you're a true leader doesn't have to literally say their title, because what you do, your presence, you should be exuding your leadership qualities, and people learn more so from your behaviors and your actions than they will ever learn from your words. So I think that that's really important. One thing I saw the other day, somebody posted, I can't remember who, it said accountability can feel like an attack to those who aren't used to being held accountable. So again, when you have a leader who you try to check their prescription or try to call them or hold them accountable for something that you don't either agree with, or if they kind of stray away from that or feel like you're attacking them or try to remove you from, remove them from being led by you, then it probably is time to self-reflect and check your motive for becoming a leader. Is it more so to fulfill a need, or to, I guess, an ego booster, or is it really to make be intentional with the change, the growth, and to develop others and empower them to go forth and become leaders? And you all, you're already on the same team, right? So you're not above or below anyone, but you're the one in charge of that team, kind of like a team captain. A team captain is no more, no greater than the whole team. They're just the ones that represents the team. So a leader is more of a representative, and should be the biggest advocate, educator, teacher, instructor, and in a way cheerleader, and also
exactly
follow. And in order to follow, you have to listen and
right.
comprehend. The two are different. You got to listen, and then also be intentional with comprehending what you're hearing and what you're listening to. So yes. I think that's very important to keep in mind, especially when we're talking about like leadership in respects to what's going on now, and how that leadership needs to not pass the torch, but light the torch for others in the group, because they still want to hold on to that torch. But if you just light my torch, I can light the torch of 80 people that follow me, and all those 80 people will light the torches for those in their neighborhood, and that's how you go ahead and catch on fire, right? So I think that's what's not happening. When I say pass the torch, again, I should have probably said light or ignite our torches. So I think that's really important, because it seems like we're in the dark, and I just need my torch lit, right? I need my torch lit, but I want it to be lit coming from good foundation, from a good, from good seed. And if you know that this has been tried and true from those who have been before us, who are still here with us, I think that, again, we just all need to be at the same table. And unfortunately, I don't know whose fault it would be, whatever, I don't know. But what has happened is that we've created and built our own tables, separate, but have invited those into our tables. But I really don't see us being invited to, their tables, with the exception of if it's, news coverage or a funeral or something like that. But that's what I have to say.
Well, I want you to know that you were invited to this table, and we are so very grateful that you are at this table. Dr. Brown was at this table, and Bishop Douglas was at this table. We're grateful because I think a leader, a true leader, leaves a legacy. I want to honor the Lord and my leaders are my leaders that gave me opportunity. They're all in heaven. That, of course, there's Bishop John Bryant, and Bishop Jakes is a mentor. John Bryant is my father in the episcopacy, and I honor God for them. And also something you said, Jesus said, "Greater things than these you shall do." So the people that he's speaking to, he's saying that the ones coming behind you should do greater things than you have done, because
right.
You're stepping up. So if I'm giving you the platform, you're stepping up on a platform that on a level that you would not have. And that's one of the things. It's a wonderful. It's also where you can tell when someone's got good grounding, when they know how to say thank you for giving me a torch.
Right.
Thank you for lighting my torch. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. Thank you for affirming my gifting and my title. And then allowing that person, they got to find their own way, but know that leader in front of them, because I don't even like to say above them, but that leader in front
Right.
of them wants to be there in case they fall or should they trip. As I said to some leaders one time, I said, I will never embarrass you by publicly correcting you. That's an old bishop, but we've got to be mindful of that Jesus said, greater things than these you shall do. And we've got to delegate and learn how to pass the baton and let it be all right. Last Wednesday, Pastor Amir, I was having some stomach challenges that day. He filled in for me. I have not yet asked him, did you talk about this? Did you talk about that? You got to trust the people that you put in place and give them an opportunity to get their own footing and their own grounding, just like you talk for 25 minutes without a breath. And that was just one segment. Then the other point, you talk 24 minutes without one breath. But this is a platform that we want you on. We want to hear you. We want to hear the people and there are others that are coming up. And I think it's a great thing to be able to allow the generation. It does my heart so good to allow the generation that's coming behind us. So I'm 63 Sunday. And Pastor Brown just hit 40, and you're just going to hit 31. And so, that's 10 years between 40, 50, 23 years between me and Brown, and then 10 years between you and Brown. And so now we need to go on down to age 22, because everybody does have something to say. I would encourage you to push that envelope a little further, Destiny, in your own private, your own writings and what have you. We really thank you. Your Aunt Lynette's online, and your cousin Linda's online, and your Aunt Arlena's online. I want to encourage you to somehow y'all get together, and that's Linda, to get together and talk about that coming to the table, and not. I'm not concerned about who's on the bottom or who's on the top. I think, we want to be on the same team. And I think that's important. And I think I can't say that enough, because we do have a lot of people out here, and we need to be mindful too. Everyone doesn't do the same thing the same way. I made a statement beforehand. I don't believe in defacing churches. I don't believe in they should not have put the spray paint on the St. John Episcopal Church, because the bishop of the Episcopal Church of Washington, D.C., people may not realize it, but she rebuked President Trump for taking the Bible from their church, and she spoke out against him moving out all of those peaceful protesters. So that church is standing with justice. So for us to be marking up that church is ignorant. We don't do that. We don't do that. Just like we don't talk against John Lewis. We don't do that. We don't do that. And then the other thing I said too, we don't worry about what people have in their church. That's their church, in their church buildings. That's what they want in their buildings. Now, those of us that sit there looking different than that picture, that's on us. That's a whole nother conversation about self-esteem and self-worth and all of that. But we want to say thank you so very much. It is 10 o'clock, y'all. Can you believe it? It is 10 o'clock. And I want to say thank you. You were amazing. You were outstanding. You were prolific. And we are grateful that comments are coming in. And I'm just watching your generation. And I'm here. I want to say that for everyone. I am here as a voice. I am here. God has been very, very good to me. And I want to do all I can to help in this era. I do want to encourage you, Destiny, and all of the Destinies and all of us, make sure we pause and breathe and get some rest and smell the roses and get in a swimming pool and get some massages and take our vitamins, because you cannot do it all. There's so much happening right now that you can live in a constant state of depression and being overwhelmed. Be mindful of becoming overwhelmed. You can only do what you can do. And the most important thing is to maintain, this is for everybody, maintain your family, take care of your elders, take care of your children, and take care of you. That's important. There will always be somebody pulling on you, and you cannot always say yes to everybody pulling on you. And so I want to just make sure that we're clear there. Thank you, Destiny, for being with us tonight. This has been rich. Thank you so very much. Again, thank you, Lloyd Edward Vaughn Jr., for your mechanical assistance. And again, as I say every night, the race is not given to the swift, neither to the strong, but it is given to those that endure to the end. Psalm 46, God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in the time of trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth be moved and the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. There is a river that make glad the city of God. God is in the midst of her, and God will help her, and that right early. Be encouraged, everybody. Please help me be a blessing to my guests this week, and sow a seed to Millennium Ministries. And you can go right there in the bottom. And tomorrow, I believe, if all systems are going, I start my new podcast tomorrow at 7 a.m. And the address is there. And if you come on and I'm not on SoundCloud and iTunes, that means that there was some technological issues, and then we'll be on next Thursday, and this coming Sunday we also start on WBLS. Amen. Thank you again, Destiny, Hilliard, Thomas, Joseph's mother, and Joseph's husband. We're very proud of you. God bless you.
Thank you.
And good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.